How are you? I haven't
I'm
seen you in a
good.
while, which is pleasant for me.
I'm sure it's really pleasant for you, for both of us.
Yeah, no one's been bothering me for money recently.
Oh, that's not true. You were working on money at the FRD trip you went on. How was
That is
Paris,
true.
first of all?
It was really nice. They disappointing not to go to Israel, of course. But they did a really nice job in a very short amount of time to make it work. Um, so it was good. It was meaningful. They did a lot of cool stuff. The evening programs were real nice. We did a dinner at the Pullman Hotel up at the rooftop when overlooking the Eiffel Tower, and they did a river cruise on the Seine, which I've never done before because all those packed boats, those people look miserable. But this we had like our own, big private boat, so it was actually really nice.
Oh, that's really nice. What did you learn about the French Jewish community?
I didn't actually know it was the third largest Jewish community in the world, at least at present. They're leaving in droves though, so it's probably going to go down.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in France.
But I didn't know. I mean, I knew it was kind of large, but I didn't know it was the third largest in the world. Having said that, if you would have told me to guess what the third largest were in the world was, I wouldn't have had a guess. I would have been like, oh, the United States, Israel, and then like I would have gone with maybe New York as a separate answer.
Yeah, New York by itself could be like the largest Jewish community outside of Israel.
Yeah. So I guess there's about 500,000 that seems to be the consensus number. Is a little bit all over the place. But a lot of history rooted in France and a lot of people really want to stay. I mean, there's a lot that want to leave. Don't get me wrong. We saw a bunch of them who were making an Aliyah flight while we were there. We were supposed to be on that flight with them. But a lot want to stay. And some of the younger ones were pretty feisty when we met with them about, what needs to happen and what we need to do. And, one specific one, she put actually a lot of pressure on American Jews saying we need to do more. So that was interesting. You can ask my wife about that. I didn't
That'd
agree
be
with her,
interesting. That'd be
but
really interesting, actually. Hmm. Well, we got to get y'all to come back and talk about it at some point in the community and what you saw and how it affects our wonderful world Jewish community, the global impact.
yeah, it was good. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for what we're doing here in the United States and how that affects what happens in Europe. I mean, we always think about Israel, right? Um, and we don't really think a lot about European Jewry. And I'm not suggesting that we should be sending a lot of money to them because that's not really what they need. But if you think anti-Semitism is bad here in the United States, France, they have to have French army outside of all of their synagogues. I know we have what's his face, the Andy, right?
Andy
Is the head of
Doer.
art. Yeah. I mean, he's not out there in full military gear with an M16, right? And like pacing around and that. So all the synagogues we went to, that's what it was like. So, they're clearly facing it a lot worse than we are. Obviously, much larger Arab population where the that affects their politics quite a bit. I mean, I heard more about French politics than I've ever heard in my life, especially how this country of I think they said the numbers were different, but the consensus seemed to be about 75 million people in France and about 12 million Arab voters. The Arab voters tend to not be super pro-Jewish in most cases. I don't want to lump them all together, but generally. And that's a huge block that their far left party is really going after. Um, and we see some of it here in the United States. Obviously, there's an election in New York City right now that people are fairly, they have, let's say, strong opinions about.
For sure.
But there it's nationwide, right? And many of the French people said at the 2027 elections, if the far left party wins, the Jews will have to leave. Now, other people say that that's, fanatical and that's not really true. But there's a lot of trepidation in front of the 2027 elections in France.
Yep. Oh, I can believe it actually. I mean, you hear a lot of stories coming out of there. I've talked to some people from France about it. They're concerned. I mean, it's not just in France. I mean, throughout Europe there are challenges, different kinds, but some similar challenges throughout Europe, especially in Western Europe in particular. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Spain clearly not going very well, but there's not nearly as many Jews in Spain. They got rid of all of us in
no.
the 1500s. So,
So some have
um,
returned, which is a whole interesting story as well.
or
Um,
some have come out of hiding, right?
yes, a little
And
bit
you're
of
not
both.
supposed to call them Moranos anymore, but that's what they're called. Um, Interestingly enough, I don't know if you listened to Dan Sinor's podcast with Ron Dermer last week, but he's excited about the French Jews movie because he says the restaurants in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem
Right.
get better.
He's like, every time they move there, the food instantly gets better in
Yep.
Israel.
So, all right. Should we get started with today's show?
Yeah, you got to say welcome back. We
Yeah,
haven't done
welcome
this in
back.
a
We
while.
haven't been together in a while, summer vacation and everything else like that. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I know you went to San Diego for a little bit.
And Santa Fe,
Um,
it was great.
but we got a lot of good feedback on the last podcast with Mo. So good to be back recording again. And then I think we'll get fully up to speed, once school rolls around again.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Rabbi and the Other Guy. As always, Matt Shochet, the other guy, my good friend and Titan of Torah, Rabbi Daniel A. Septimus, which, by the way, it says that on all the things. It's so funny. Instead of we have an internal spreadsheet for like sourcing guests and stuff. And instead of saying like Daniel or like Rabbi, it says like his whole full name every single time.
But we're very formal around here. The marketing team's very precise. What can we
Yeah,
say?
fair enough. All right. Let's bring in Frank. He should appear on our screen there. There he is. All right. Frank Silberlicht serves as the executive director of Camp Young Judaea, Texas, where he has been for the last 27 years. Under his leadership, the camp and its retreat center have experienced significant growth. Graduated from Oklahoma State University with a degree in hotel and restaurant management, and he's worked at a variety of different places, including Camp Tel Yehuda, Young Judaea, and Taco Bell, which secretly is one of my wife's favorite places to eat late at night. He's also a graduate of the Foundation for Jewish Camp Executive Leadership Institute back in 2007. When he's not busy being a camp director, he lives in Houston with his wife Simone and their 3 children, Alon, Jacob, and Rebecca. They also have a dog, Bella, who apparently is the only one that actually likes the camp food. Sounds like my kids in their camp. All right, welcome to the podcast, Frank. How are you?
Good, thanks, Matt. My mom would be real proud of that introduction.
Very good. And we have to make your mom happy, right? We're all Jewish. We have to
Absolutely.
have our Jewish moms being happy. All right. Well, when I was preparing for this podcast, I had a list of questions, and then, we had some events that happened in Central Texas, which have now changed my list of questions. And I don't want to get like morbid all that quickly, but obviously there's a lot of people in Central Texas who are affected by the flooding. Camp Mystic is the sort of epicenter. You can't pick up the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal without reading an article. So how is the camp community doing? I know a lot of the directors are all very close and you all speak with each other quite a bit.
Well, it's a tragic and really sad time for everyone, even camps outside of Texas, all across the United States. It's a small community of camp directors, and really, when something bad happens to one, it affects everyone. And it also got all the camps to rethink about their policies and procedures, and even look at things that didn't even feel realistic to start planning for those contingencies.
So how is the mood at camp right now? I'm assuming camp's in session, right?
Yeah, we're in our second session. The mood in camp is good because, for most of the kids, they may not know someone, or, it's not part of their daily news. The weather's really nice in Central Texas right now. And so it's not affecting the mood for the kids.
Oh, that's good. I know I've spoken to actually several of the Mystic kids, and I think they have the feeling that most kids have about camp, that that's like their second home, right? And now
Yep.
they have this feeling that their second home is destroyed, and can only imagine my kid who goes to camp in Wisconsin, same thing, right? Up there, they were, it set a little bit of a pall over the camp for a little while as the news started to come out.
Absolutely. And we were at the end of our first session at camp, and the number of phone calls from parents worried, should we pick up our kids? And it was really a large amount of news and questions from parents and comments and worries. So it really was out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's normal. How many parent calls do you get a day on average? I'm curious.
We I would say we probably get about 20 to 30 calls.
And how many
at
kids do you
least.
have?
Wait. You get 20 to 30 calls a day?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
at
I would have
least.
thought higher. I think he's lowballing
Wow.
it.
Maybe I'm underestimating. Maybe that's just in the office, but then you have the infirmary and then you have the camper care. So when you put them all together, probably hundreds,
Yeah. And how many campers do you have?
300 at
Yeah,
any
so that's
one
like
moment.
one call per kid per day. That sounds about right. I would have guessed somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's, I would say, yeah, now that rethinking, probably about at least 100 phone calls or emails.
Yeah,
The problem with
emails.
emails so quick and easy.
Did they ever get the counselor's cell phones? That's what the Birch Trail. My daughter goes to Birch Trail, so now what they're trying the moms try to figure out who the counselor is and somehow get the counselor's cell phone. So they can get pictures and stuff. I'm like, come on, this is sleepwear. So that's what's supposed to happen here. But
Look, modern technology. But Frank, there's an important question to ask here. Who's your favorite employee? Careful.
My favorite employee. Are you going somewhere with this?
I
he
Is
wants
am.
you to
this?
say him.
No, it's not me. I'm not an employee of CYJ, but I might have some connections to an employee.
Oh, well, our bookkeeper, who, happens to have the same last name as you, Septimus. So were you fishing for that?
I was fishing for it just a little bit, My
Oh,
Matt, my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, is the bookkeeper of CYJ. So
Oh, okay. Wait, is that why? Does your brother go up and be the doctor there for a
no,
week?
he's historically done green. I don't know if
Okay.
Frank wants him up there. I don't know. I don't know how his feelings are about Josh.
I like Josh. I actually, I said, why don't you come for a weekend this summer?
And
But then he was busy
Frank, there's an ongoing
hiking.
joke. If my brother doesn't get mentioned on the podcast, he feels really left out. So now we've accomplished that and we can move on.
Okay, Josh Septimus. I just mentioned him.
There you go. Several mentions today. All right. So tell me, I know there's a lot of Jewish day camps around the country, and then there's like my kids go to what Louis said is a camp for Jewish kids. It's not actually a Jewish day camp. So tell me what the difference is between CYJ and then other camps.
So a Jewish camp is intentionally Jewish. So it's more than just Jewish kids there. There's Jewish program, there's education. And so for CYJ, I think what makes the Young Judaea camps unique, we're teaching Zionism. We're trying to build lovers of Israel. And so you come into camp, it looks like a kibbutz. There's Israeli flags everywhere. The signs are in Hebrew and English. We bring Israelis over to work with the kids. We call them madrachim, counselors. And, really the hope is kids walk out of CYJ wanting to go to Israel and having a love for Eretz Yisrael.
And that carries forward, right? So there's day camp there's summer camp, sleepaway, and then there are programs afterwards as they get older.
Yeah, for us, we go through ninth grade, so 14 years old, and then there's a teen leadership camp in New York called Camp Tel Yehuda, and then kids that follow the path will go there, and then from there, we have a trip to Israel when they're in their senior year, and then they come back to us as a CIT, and then they become staff. So it's really from 7 years old. They generally could be with us till 21, 22 years old if they continue working.
Well, that's incredible. And do you have a sense of I mean, Dan Senor on his podcast talked about the importance of Jewish day school and the importance of Jewish day camp in terms of making, proud Jews that will stay Jewish. So do you have a sense for like the percentage of kids that stick with it and then stay Jewish afterwards?
Yeah. The Young Judaea has done some of their surveys, and they've shown that there's a 90% of the people are staying Jewish, but those are older surveys. We're finding more rabbis have come from Jewish camps. People that light candles more likely have been to Jewish camp. People that give tzedakah or belong to the JCC, once again, Jewish camp. So Jewish camp, what makes it unique, very different than other things, is that it's joyous fun. And where we say you have to go to Hebrew school, you have to go to synagogue, at camp it's when is Shabbat? When can we, when's Shabbat coming? How much longer? Kids are looking forward to Shabbat, and they're in these Jewish experiences that are fun and meaningful for them. And so I would say we, on Shabbat services, when the Torah reading happens, it is quieter than in my synagogue back home in Houston. I'm not going to say which one, but it's one of them. And that
It's because the
there's
wives aren't talking about what people are wearing.
yeah, and the shtick and the different things we do to make the prayers even more enjoyable and fun. It's really filled. The kids are loud and it's exciting.
And so you do Shabbat every week, obviously.
Yeah, holiday happens every week, no matter what.
And are there any other holidays you do, or do you talk about any other customs? Is it mostly, you have services on Saturday for Shabbat, and then the rest of the time it's more secular, shall we say?
Not exactly. It's kind of you interweave Jewish life in camp. So, for example, before meals, we do hamotzi. We do the Birkat Hamazon after all meals. On Shabbat, just even the doing kiddush and just the standard matzo ball soup, chicken or brisket, and all that. So you have that. But we do services every day. During the week, sometimes they're more experiential and learning based and less about going from point A to point B. And so our goal is really for kids to learn and understand what they're doing as opposed to trying to get through a service. Everything we do kind of has, we look at it, how do we bring Judaism or Israel into it? So, for example, if it's sports, they're not going to say divide a team 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll use Hebrew. They'll count in Hebrew, or we'll use names in camp to describe times a day and buildings and other things in Hebrew. So it's really interweave where you don't feel this is my secular time, here's my Jewish time. It's all our time together.
And do
And
you
it has
find
to be
that, like,
fun.
yeah, no, of course it has to be fun, right? They're not going to do anything if it's not fun, of course. Do you find that kids bring some of that home with them to their families? Do you hear from parents, after they come home, like, oh, my kid wants to do this or my kid wants to do that, and they incorporate that into their home life during the rest of the year?
You hear some. I would think it's more than I hear from, hopefully, but we'll get parents that will say, hey, can we have a copy of your Siddur, your prayer book, or can we have your Birkat Hamazon, the prayer after meals sheets? Or they'll say, my kid wants, do you have this tune that you can share with us? So you find some of the kids are bringing it home, and because the kids that come to us, we're pluralistic, so we have Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, or not identifying in any stream of Judaism. And some of the kids, the only Jewish experience they get is at CYJ. And there's others who keep kosher at home and are Shomer Shabbat. So it's this great mixture. And what happens, and this is the unique part, kids learn from each other and they share what their Jewish life is like. So there isn't one right way, it's what their way is. And so you see some of the kids going on journeys. So good example, on Friday night, we have a very, our service for everyone's pretty general. It runs between Reform and Conservative Orthodox, somewhere in the middle there. But we also have an Orthodox minyan, and some of the kids will go to it who've never been to one, and there's a mechitza and everything.
Do the girls
And
count, or do they start at 11?
they start at 11. But there's plenty there, but that's only in the Orthodox minyan, and kids can go to what they want to. And sometimes we'll do a nature walk or different kinds of minyans we'll have, just so kids can try different things, because as a kid growing up, you have no choice. You go where your parents send you.
Right. And I think so. One of the things, Frank, I love about Jewish overnight camps is it's a space to really explore Jewish joy, and the kids have some ownership, around that. I assume as the kids get older, they begin to take more ownership in these experiences, right? The Shabbat and spiritual experiences, planning them, leading them, participating in them, and they do that in ways that allow them to have input into it. Whereas you said, back home, you've kind of got a fixed bar and bat mitzvah experience because, congregations have to get through it every Saturday morning. And you're not with the kids 24 hours a day, and they're not in this majority Jewish environment. So it's a little bit of they're coming in and out, right? So it's a different experience. So these kids have this opportunity to really like feel this ownership around it and have this pride. And it really, is important in a time when a lot of our kids, and it'd be interesting to hear what you're hearing from your kids and your counselors as well, are experiencing anti-Semitism in ways that maybe they haven't in the past or at a level that they haven't as well. So I think that Jewish joy is really critical for their own Jewish identities, that they have an identity that's not just focused on anti-Semitism or supporting Israel. It's about joy and how Israel contributes to that joy and how our own communities and our own camp contributes to that joy.
100%. I could not have said it better, Daniel. I mean, exactly right. I mean, that's the secret ingredient, joyousness, Jewish joyousness. For kids to be in Jewish experiences and enjoying themselves and wanting it to share with others. I think that's the magic.
Tell me a little bit about, you said you have Israelis that come over as counselors, right?
Correct.
So tell me a little bit about their experience. It's almost like a reverse experience for them, right? These kids that are putting the army off for a year or two, like our Shinshanim, or these kids that have been in the army and are post-army?
They're post-army, and through the Jewish agency in Israel, they help us recruit and bring over. We work with them, and as well as Green Family Camp in Texas, we all work with them. They come over, and it's really interesting. I think for them, it's a unique thing because in Israel, you're either religious or you're not. There isn't enough of a middle. And so they come over here and they realize that there is a middle, there is some differences. And I think it's good for them. We need to change the experience between Israel and America. Right now, it's very transactional. It needs to be more people-based. And so the more Israelis we bring over here and the more we build relationships, the better things will be for our world.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying with I think that if you read the newspaper, it seems transactional. I think when you go there and when you speak with Israelis, it definitely feels less transactional. And so, do the Israelis come back summer after summer? And if they do you see like how they change and how they evolve being exposed to camp for a few years?
Yeah, their first summer, it's like this deer in headlight. All of a sudden they're in this new culture and trying to understand, but I do it this way and this and that, and dealing with, also it's not an easy job being a counselor in Madrid. So the second year, we're able to find some of them to actually take on leadership roles in camp. Because remember, they're older than most of the staff. They're post-army. And so you have a limited time. So generally, if you're an Israeli, you work at camp, you go travel. Most of them seem to go down to South America. They travel South and Central America. And within a year, they're back in Israel. And then they're doing something, either they've made a decision, they're going to put off the test to get into university, and maybe they'll come back again. But generally, eventually, they're going to go to university. But for some of them, it'll take 2 or 3 years.
Well, and Avram Infeld, who we all probably know, are very involved in Birthright, called for a birthright of Israelis coming to the United States or North America into diaspora. And one of the best places for Israelis to better understand the importance of diaspora Jewry is in the camps. I mean, that's where they really begin to understand their own
Careful when you say
Judaism.
in the camps, because that has different connotation.
In the American Jewish camps or the Jewish camps around the world. But they come to these camps and they explore their own Judaism in ways that they weren't allowed to in some ways in Israel. So I don't know if your experience, Frank, is that a lot of your counselors leave and they seek more of that spiritual connection once they leave camp, and they leave with a better understanding of especially American Jewry or maybe Texas Jewry. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're on a journey, just like many of our staff members are, and so it's this critical time place of being in the age from 18 to 22 years old, where they're making their choices and they're trying new things. And I think people, they're going on a journey, and maybe some of them leaving are going to go back and do a little bit more Jewish, so to speak. And for some, it may be we're just going to do Shabbat, or we're going to make Kiddush. But others, I've heard, I want to be involved in the Jewish community. How can I come back and do more? That kind of thing. But same as the American staff, they're, especially, you mentioned anti-Semitism on campus. What's neat about Jewish camp, it's a safe place. There isn't any anti-Semitism going on in Jewish summer camps. And it's a safe space to be who you are. And I think it really strengthens their own identity.
Frank, you mentioned the counselors that come, and Matt was asking about the counselors, but the last 2 summers, you have invested with the support of like Shalom Austin and other Texas federations in bringing Israelis over who've been impacted post October or by October 7th, quite frankly. Can you talk a little bit about the campers you brought there this past summer and this summer?
Oh, thank you. You teed it up, and wham. Um, I'm passionate. Running a summer camp, very exciting. How many lives you impact and what you do. But I got thinking about, is there something more, something bigger? And so my passion is kind of what you described before, is we need to put 2 Israelis in every bunk, campers. And we need them in this reverse birthright. We need them to grow up in Jewish camps. And for them, then when they grow up, they're going to eventually be on a birthright bus with other kids. They're eventually going to come back through the Jewish agency as counselors, and the cycle will continue with their kids. And imagine the relationships over many years we built. So I put together a little program and trying to think long-term, out of the box, less transactional. How do we build these relationships? And several federations, and Shalom Austin, stepped up, was the first to step up, said, we can help you. And the idea is, camp's expensive for many people, but for Israelis especially. And so being able to make it affordable for Israelis to come. And so this summer we have 20 Israelis, campers in camp, having the time of their life. I mean, it's great to watch, but really, how many years can they keep coming back? And how do we expand this? Because we're just one camp. Imagine, 150 Jewish camps, and each camp, had 50 kids or more, what that would look like and what it would do to our world.
And Frank, what are you hearing from these Israeli campers? I mean, post October 7th, and how they're like. We know that a lot of prep work is done before they come. They have some psychological evaluations to make sure that leaving their homes, they're fit to do that. Like, how are they experiencing camp from last summer, and then how are they doing this summer?
Well, this summer we can use as a good example their experienced normalcy. Think about how many times they were woken up in the middle of the night with rockets. I mean, just happening, just ended prior to them coming. For them to really feel the sense of normalcy and being around, being around other Jewish kids, and then being in this environment, a little foreign to them, but navigating and having a great time. So I think for them and for the parents especially, feeling the sense of my kid, is having normalcy, having fun, and being a child again.
Yeah, I think that that's great. I mean, obviously, we don't have other camps lobbing missiles at you, so maybe you could do that for an experiential thing for the American campers to feel like what it's like to be an Israeli. But I bet it's nice for them to get away from that and just to be able to go and have some fun and really be carefree. I mean, I think that's the most amazing thing about these summer camps. When it's done right, these kids are carefree for, 4 weeks or 8 weeks, I mean,
Yeah,
depending on how long they go.
it's a great gift, and just to emphasize that the Texas federations that have supported CYJ or Green Family Camp, you know, it's coming from the emergency funds that all of us raised to help support these programs. But I agree with Frank. Like long term, we need to keep more and more Israelis coming as campers who can then grow up and come through the Sochnut or through the Jewish Agency eventually to be counselors. Like that's the kind of relationship building we need in our camps and in our own communities. So hopefully this is just the beginning of a, October 7th, sadly happened, and it gives us the opportunity to help build stronger relationship between Israeli Jewry and American Jewry.
Yeah, I wonder, year course is another Young Judea. Stuart Wall pesters me about it all the time. So shout out to
He
Stuart for
pesters
that.
Stuart Wallach. It's equal opportunity. Pesters Frank. He pesters me. I'm related to him through marriage too. Don't worry. Keep going.
So I'm wondering, it's interesting. You have these kids that are coming and they're coming back, right? And they're going to make relationship with kids their age, and we're all interconnected, right? So they'll all connect on WhatsApp or whatever. Snapchat. I don't know if Snapchat's really popular in Israel yet, but if you're 15 or 16, you can't communicate with anybody by Snapchat nowadays. But I'm wondering what will happen if these kids make these relationships. If you'll see some of the campers who have these Israeli friends end up on year course because they'll know a bunch of people there. And I know it's another part of the Young Judea, it's CYJ. I know they have summer programs, like they have like high school in Israel. They have all these different programs that maybe more and more kids will take advantage of.
Yeah. Obviously, as a Young Judea program, we're very pro year course, but I have to tell you, my middle child was on year course this last year, and he came back, and I think he had the best year of his life, and he totally took advantage of immersing in Israeli society. And he did things from a walk. He took a hike with a couple other guys from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, which is completely a hike, and they end up sleeping in a forest overnight there. And then other things that maybe my wife didn't love so much, like skydiving in the Negev. But yeah, he was smart. He didn't tell us till afterwards.
Yeah, that's smart.
So very smart.
That's
Put the
normal.
worry away.
There's a lot of things you don't know either, so it's fine what you don't know.
What
But
you don't know, you don't know.
But the year course program is an incredible program.
It was unbelievable, and he volunteered on an ambulance, and I think now he's going to be starting a little shout out to University of Texas this fall. But he wanted to go in.
You have two at UT then.
One graduated last.
Already graduated already?
Yeah. I'm 2 out of 3 at UT.
Oh, that's right. He was with Stein's kid, right? As a
roommate. Yeah.
That's right. Okay,
they were roommates.
Max Stein. He graduated too.
They were roommates.
I can't believe how old these kids got.
Yeah, Max is going to law school. I think my son told me at Washington or
WashU.
Yeah. They're from St. Louis.
Yeah.
Good family.
To the roots.
And y'all give a shout out, Stuart, if you're listening. Love Stuart.
We'll make sure he hears it. We'll stroke his ego. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. It'll give me a few points.
Me too.
Yeah, and the Steins are Sauber kids, which is another Jewish camp up.
Well, at first when you start the job of being a director of camp, you're greedy. You want every kid there. Now we want every kid to go to Jewish camp. That's they go to Jewish camps. So, people look at Green Family Camp in CYJ, Texas, the 2 overnight Jewish camps in Texas, and think we're competitors. We're actually not. There's kids that go back and forth, and we're good friends. In fact, Erin, the director there, and her son and my daughter were in the same class at school together. And, we talk to each other all the time. We do programs together. We do joint grant requests. So we see ourselves as friends and allies, and we just want all kids to go to Jewish camp. We prefer in Texas, though, but
the weather's cooler in other states, just to be clear.
But we're building resiliency.
And I think the ecosystem of kids going with each other to camp in Texas builds lifelong friendships that they can see each other. They can drive up to Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, wherever they're going within the state, much quicker than going up to hang out with Matt's friends peeps up in Chicago and Wisconsin and Minnesota, wherever else they go.
They're
True,
kind of from
true.
all over now. They
But in
were
the
originally
long
Chicago.
Sorry. I would say, Matt, in the long game, the way I look at it is I'm living in Texas. I want my kids to live in Texas because I want one day grandkids close to me. So if my kids go to camp in Texas, they go to school in Texas, I'm just increasing my odds of that.
Yeah,
You're
that's a
also
good point.
saving money if they go to school in Texas. So that's good.
That's true too. Yeah, since when
Truthfully.
is college less expensive than a day school?
Well, I mean, I think the room and board at Texas is the highest in the country, is what I hear. So
It's,
That is, it
that's
is
if you stay in Callaway
unbelievable.
House, which Frank's kid, I don't know, is your kid going to stay there this year too?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Yeah,
The
I mean, you
the
got
Jewish
to
towers
somehow.
of its time, like the UT towers, which were brand new in the 80s and they're gone. So, they built the next best thing.
Yeah.
all right, I have a question. Do you have any camp marriages?
Yes. Since I've been here, I think we've had between 20 and 30 marriages of staff that met at camp.
What about campers that met at camp that like got married later?
There's a few, but it turns out because most people become staff. And so then, so we attribute it to the staff piece. But there are people that have met as campers.
Whoa.
Do you get,
Wait. How many have become rabbis or Jewish professionals? That's a more important question. Matt needs more rabbis in his life.
yes, that's exactly what I need. More rabbis.
Isn't Daniel enough for you? You need another
Well,
one?
he does
I'm
think
trying
I'm
to
enough for
replace
him.
him.
Oh, you're trying to I could give you a huge list. There's lots of suitable
He's not
people.
lenient enough for my rules.
So
Oh.
when Matt asked you about holidays, Frank, what he really wanted to hear was that you do Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur during summer because it's more convenient for his schedule.
Yep, that would be amazing. Just knock them all out.
He asked every rabbi comes on our show, can we move Yom Kippur? Is it okay? Because the Red River rivalry last year was on Yom Kippur, and how do you observe it, et cetera, et cetera? That was one question.
Matt, are you from UT?
No. My wife went to UT. I went to school up in New Jersey at Rutgers. Not a
New
good football
Yorker.
school.
He's a New Yorker.
Oh, he's a Yank.
Yes.
He is a Yankees fan, which is the only thing that I think is a dispute between the two of us. But besides that, we're good friends.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. But we don't want those holidays in the middle of summer.
Why? You just get them over with. Be
You
great.
You already do Tisha B'Av in the middle of the summer. That's the worst holiday.
Yeah, that one. We look at the calendar every year and just hope it will not land, that or Shavuot, in the middle of camp. Like, can we make camp work? Because it's interesting, if you look at the Jewish calendar, the summer's pretty light. And maybe because maybe back then they realized that people are going to be traveling or on vacation, and you need Jewish holidays where you can go to synagogues. So, yeah,
I think it
summer's
was just an
generally light.
agrarian calendar. It was too hot.
Agrarian calendar.
Yeah, that's fair
Jewish
too.
calendar is an agrarian calendar. You can tell me everything else.
No, that is correct.
Agrarian
It's
calendar.
totally revolving around the harvests and all the agricultural needs of the people when they lived in Israel and beyond.
Yeah.
So we should be able to move the holidays. Anyway, moving on. I want to hear more. Do you get to officiate at any of these weddings? Is the camp director? Do you have the power vested in you to marry them?
No, I do not have that. I don't have that power. But when you get invited to the weddings, that's really neat. I mean, it's just fun to see that. It's meaningful.
Well, you have a new engagement on your staff.
That's true. Yeah.
Your camp director.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's married a former Austin person, Casey.
Casey Cole, Matt, who used to be the director at CAA. At a good Isachim.
Yep. Now she's
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Israel. Yeah, so we have a wedding. Mac knows we don't do we full-time staff do not get married during the summer.
No.
You have to time everything from even in my own life, I made sure that our kids were not born in the summer.
How'd you work that?
Timing. In fact, you want to hear
your
something?
Hebrew calendar out?
You're not going to believe this. First kid was born February 5th. Second kid, March 5th. Third kid, April 5th.
Oh, that was good timing.
Immaculate. My timing is good.
There might be something to this Hebrew calendar. Maybe did you get it? Is it the leap month? Did you, or could you? Were you going for the same day and just screwed up that Adar 1 and Adar 2?
Wow, I'm impressed that Matt knows what Adar 1 and Adar 2 is.
He's
He
throwing
had a
out a
whole
lot
podcast
of
about it.
knowledge.
I'm a fund of knowledge. 50% of the time, I'm 100% right.
Oh, that's like, I thought I made a mistake, but I was wrong.
That's right.
That's awesome.
So when does camp run through? You have 2 sessions?
We do. We end August 5th. So we end, schools start earlier in Texas. So most of the camps end right around that time, because then kids have to get back for football practice, cheerleading, or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, it all starts August 6th. Daniel knows.
Yeah.
Our girls will be cheering together
August
starting
7th, I
August
thought.
6th.
That was August
I
7th.
thought it was the 6th. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
it's
she
the
added
7th.
something on the 6th, but Talia had already committed to being a Stand With Us intern, so she's not going to be back till the night. But Kayla will have to get over it.
Yeah,
You
she'll
can
probably have
probably-
to sit out 4 games.
I'll tell her she's doing the Jewish people, the chosen people, a favor.
Fair enough. So you have 2 sessions. They're 4 weeks long.
24 days. So the sweet spot in Texas is really 3 weeks. Most camps are around 3 weeks in Texas. So from 21 to 25 days usually.
And do any kids go all summer?
No, just poor staff kids like mine.
Got it. So my
Yeah.
kids would go all summer in Wisconsin. They'd go all 7 weeks.
What we find, the parents that send their kids to camp, they generally think of camp as part of their summer. The other part, they're going on a vacation. And so, if we wanted to make camp longer, I'm not sure many would do it. They're happy with that time period.
If you have a time and you go on YouTube, Google the running of the Jews. They have a thing about the parents coming for visiting weekend to the main camps, and they're all lined up at the gates running to see. It's hilarious.
That's
Watch it on
funny,
YouTube.
actually.
It's called the running of the Jews.
It's true, though. They wait outside. I told Amanda, I'm like, I'm not getting there first. Sorry.
I know about that firsthand. I worked when I was in college. I worked at a summer camp in New York area in Pennsylvania, Beach Lake, Pennsylvania. You may have heard of it, Trails End Camp.
I've heard
And
of
it's
it for sure.
one of these high-end camps, and it was a camp you were either Jewish or Italian to go there. It was one of those. And visiting day was in the middle of summer, and camp was 7 weeks long. That's what a session was. Used to be 8, but they needed a week for all the divorces so the other family could get them. So anyway, so visiting days in the middle. And so the cars are lined up. Let's say the gates open at 10. From 8 o'clock in the morning, the cars are lined up. You want to be first. And it was limousines. It was the best of best cars, all lined up, ready to go in, shopping bags full of food and all sorts of stuff. Even though this camp had waiters and fed people very well, like we would have steak sandwiches for lunch.
What?
I mean, it was.
Why did you leave the
camp?
camp? I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah, and the camp had a 9-hole golf course. And I remember the director telling someone, no, you can't land your helicopter on visiting day.
Oh, wait a minute.
You must drive.
Camp Olympia has a junior PGA golf course that they built after I left the camp. They were building it when I was a counselor. And Green has had helicopters land on their camp. Have you, Frank?
We have actually. My assistant director, I hear her on the phone with a parent saying, no, you can't land your helicopter. And I'm like, no, hold on. She puts the guy on hold. I'm like, anyone has a helicopter can land their helicopter at camp. We want those kids. And so anyways, so the guy he came for many years, dropping off his grandkids. And then one day we had a man camp. We run this man camp it was a family camp. He was coming and he wanted to go refill his helicopter in San Marcos. He asked me if I want to go. I'm like, well, I'm watching my kids. And I said, okay. So my wife comes over. I said, oh, I'm taking the kids on the helicopter. We're going to San Marcos. So she couldn't say no then. And we go on the helicopter just to go to San Marcos. And it's amazing flying in a helicopter, glass bottom on the cockpit floor on the non-driver's side. passenger side. And it's really the only way to really, if you're scouting out houses or ranches or something, that's the way to do it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right,
There you
Matt,
go.
what's your last question you want to ask Matt before we conclude?
Oh, I had a couple of different ones, and we sort of discussed a bunch of different stuff. But okay, tell me your funniest camp story.
Oh. Putting me on the spot. Um, well, I don't know. Let me kind of bypass the funny story and just kind of share just something that happened the other day. And it kind of showcases a little bit why camp is, one of the needs of camp is building resiliency and teaching kids to really speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves. We get an email from a parent because it's so much easier to send an email, and it says, "My child has an ingrown toenail." Now, this parent hasn't seen their child for 1.5 weeks, but the child must have sent a letter home and said, "I think my toe's hurting." And so she tells us that, "Can you see him?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh yeah, we'll just go take care of it." But then I really thought about it and like, what are we teaching this kid? This kid really needs to learn to advocate, speak up, and tell his counselors who are not that much older than him, maybe 10 years, be able to say, "Hey, my foot's hurting. I need to go to the health center." And so, it got me thinking about the whole idea in, what we're doing is we're really teaching kids to be better human beings. And, and it's not just that, it's like the please and thank you at meals. Like food doesn't get passed to a kid if they don't use the word please, and they need to use thank you, or how, and we didn't get into this, but I have to throw it in because it was an open door here. How the fact that there's no technology for kids at camp. That, I used to in the old days talk all about Judaism, Israel, and really I could start out a conversation, say there's no technology, no phones, and the parents are really looking up and excited. Because imagine, the kids learn, before they learn how to tie their shoelaces, they learn how to work a phone, not their own, but their parents. And now kids, they have a hard time reading, those with phones, reading facial expressions because they're not looking at their peers, they're looking at their phones. So you'll see, like teenagers all sitting around in a circle, they're talking is with their phones and looking at it. So not having technology. But I think the neatest thing that make camps really successful is I tell parents, you're not there. That's, for the parents not to be there, not to muck things up, but allow kids to learn, grow, and gain independence. They can do that great with the help of the counselors who are, not that much older.
Yeah,
So I
I'm a
had to
big
throw that
advocate for
in.
camp. I'm a huge advocate for camp for exactly those reasons. Okay,
Ah,
now you
see,
actually have
I
to
read
answer
your
a question
mind.
though. So now I get a next final question.
Okay.
Okay, speaking of technology, right? Gabe Chernoff is the director of Emily's Camp, a good friend of mine. I'm the doctor up there once a week. Every year we get some type of piece of contraband that they try to sneak in, and so we pick out like the best one. So what's the best one that they've tried to sneak into to CYJ?
Ah, that's a good one. How about I'll turn a little bit is we don't, when we allowed packages in camp, we don't allow packages now. They would sneak stuff in, but once in a while a parent will say, "Oh, my kid needs this." So they'll take a tampon box and they'll cut out the bottom, and they'll leave some of the tampons in, and they'll put gum, candy, and other things in there and seal it up. We've seen teddy bears, we've seen, you name it. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of message are you teaching your kids? It's okay to break the rules and break the system. So
Yeah,
yeah, probably the tampon box because people think, oh, no one's going to open it up.
yeah, that
But
was
we
smart.
will at
I would have gone with
CYJ.
that.
You can't get the contraband
Yeah,
in.
you're not getting any contraband in, man.
Not this place.
Well, Frank, thanks for coming on. We really, really appreciate, the work that you're doing and your partnership and everything. There's a lot of reasons why we should all be sending our kids to Jewish camps, and you stated a lot of them today.
Yeah,
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Daniel. This was fun. We should have more conversations. They don't have to be recorded, but we should. And
Yeah,
then they could even be more wild.
exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for Frank for being on. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you soon here on The Rabbi and the Other Guy.